Hey, familia, welcome to In Your Business with Dr. Alex, where we get all up in your business and your health. And today I have an amazing guest who's going to be talking to us about sleep, health, and high performance. Because who ain't around here sleepy, tired, fatigued, brain fog, can't remember shit? That describes so many people. And I've been following Juan for a long time on social media, and the stuff that he talks about, everybody needs to know about this and implement this in their lives. And I thought he would be the perfect, amazing guest for In Your Business with Dr. Alex. So before I bring Juan up, I'm going to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Eric McKee. He is a realtor in Northeast Ohio, and I'm going to put his contact info up for you. Give me just a All right, awesome. And we definitely thank him for sponsoring this show and allowing us to come to you and bring you this great content. So I'm going to bring up my guest, Juan, up here onto stage. Hello.
Hello. Good evening out here in the East Coast. Wherever you're tapping into, it might be a little bit different, but here on the East Coast is a good early evening. Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, I'm in Ohio. Where are you at?
I'm in New York.
Ah, awesome. So if you're watching this, definitely leave us some comments. This is definitely an interactive session. So let us know where you're tuning in from, where you're at, what you're up to. Say hello, connect, interact. That's what the show is all about. And definitely as we go on, if you have any questions for either of us, feel free to drop them in the chat. We will answer them as best we can. All right, Juan, give us a little bit of background on you and who you are and how you got into this that you do right now on social media.
Ooh, all right. In a nutshell, that's a loaded question right there. That is a loaded question. And how I like to frame it is, I don't want to talk about all the certifications or classes or all these things. That's not what you're here for. You're watching this. It's like, okay, what
is it?
How can I do the thing so I can show up how I can show up? And I would just say that I'm a man on a mission. And I've seen the gaps in, the mindset field, the health fields, the fitness fields, the spirituality fields, and all these different fields. And my duty is to really bring it together so the leaders in our world can live vibrantly, right? Because these are the generational cycle breakers, right? These are the individuals that are leading companies and businesses that are changing the fabric of our society. And it's about breaking the cycles that are no longer serving us. And one of those cycles is health. Right? We talk about genetics. I know you know about epigenetics and the expression, but we really pass on our lifestyle, and once we're able to step into that and understand that it has to start with us, right? We can't think about the healthcare system and then changing things up, because they got the private schools and best education, best cars, best houses through this sick care. So we can't wait for them to be like, you know what, I was wrong. Let me put all this at jeopardy. That's not going to happen. So it has to start from us, from the grassroots up. And that's really my mission, to activate our leaders in that way. And their parents, their entrepreneurs, we affect, the fabric of our communities in such a profound way. And that's why I love what you do in
Mm-hmm.
terms of the functional medicine space, because you've been in that cycle, in that system, and you had the courage to step out, be like, yo, there's something off here. There's something missing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I'll just leave it at that.
No, I love that because you said something so great there. It starts with us. It starts with you. You are in control of your health. And, a phrase I always like to use is, your genes load the gun, but your lifestyle pulls the trigger on so many levels. And it just something basic as like sleep that people take for granted, but it can negatively affect people's lives, their performance, their health. I mean, it's so critical. And we're always so worried about our kids getting enough sleep and their
Mm,
naps and all this stuff. And then when we're adults, we're like, oh, well, we don't need that. We still need that type of care. It's part of our health. Like we still need that. And another thing that you said about the lifestyle and breaking the cycles, and definitely so much, all I talk about is so much of that, and so do you. And that's so true. Like our lifestyles and our habits, we just keep repeating and repeating and repeating, and we're doomed. We are doomed unless we step away or work with somebody who can shine a light onto that and show us, wow, why are you doing this? Like you're doing this, it's not really serving you and it's negatively impacting you. So that's so important. And I love that that's what you bring. And so, what do you believe are some of the most common causes of sleep problems that you see in high performing people?
we can step into many different things that I see, right? And when you talk about being a cycle breaker, it's really about that embodiment. Are you
Mm-hmm.
embodying this thing? You talk about we worry about our kids. We worry about really everybody, especially parents, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else gets first dibs and all the dibs, and we forget that we are the lifeline. We are the root system that gives life to everything else around us that we care about. So some of the common problems that I see is, one is the identity, especially like, oh, I'm a night owl, right?
Oh.
Or I'm
Mm-hmm.
creative at night. That's a big identity, where I
Mm-hmm.
want you to know that anytime you're looking to change something, you always have to look at, what do you feel is going to be threatened by that change, right? There's, on a subconscious level, there's something that's threatened by that change. And once we're able to identify that, then things change. But things like busy mind, busy schedule, the one a big one is the emotional hindrance and the trauma that might be stuck in the body when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to sleep or nighttime, right? There's neural associations when it comes to that. And
Mm-hmm.
you like that honor, the honor of the badge of honor in terms of, I'm a workaholic. I've been there, right? I
Mm-hmm.
used to sleep in the middle of my dinner, right? I used to just like doze off and then wake up and eat and finish eating that thing. That's wrong. That shouldn't happen. But I
Mm-hmm.
wore it as, I have a bunch of work ethic. I can work hard, and
Mm-hmm.
if I stay up 2 a.m., 3 a.m. studying, learning all these different things, I'm doing something. And that's why I can identify with the individuals that come to me for help in these areas, when they've sought everyone else, the sleep
Mm-hmm.
therapists or the doctors, and they don't want to get on pills. So those are the
Mm-hmm.
big ones that I see.
Yeah, and you touched on medication. I definitely want to go back to that. I don't want to jump ahead too much, but that's such a huge thing that we definitely need to talk about. And I see a message here from Chanda, and she says, "My mind is so busy at night." You got any words of advice, Juan, for that, or anything you want to say about that?
Yes. There's a couple things we can do and look at, right? It's like, okay,
Mhm.
what's happening throughout the day? Caffeine curfew is also huge. So if we're ingesting caffeine after like 2 p.m., 1 p.m., it's going to, depending on your genetic makeup, is going to
Mhm.
have an influence on how you're able to sleep. And we can delve into that a little bit later and
Mhm.
dive into, hey, what's really happening with the brain and the body when we're
Mhm.
over caffeinated.
Mhm.
However, when it comes to a busy mind, there's two things that you can do. One, you can write it out, a journal, or I like to call it a mind dumping, right?
Yeah.
Because your thoughts are actual real things. They're biological things. They're
Mhm.
not just like, oh, I have thoughts. They're electrical signals, right? So they're taking
Mhm.
up space in your brain.
Yeah.
So by mind dumping, you're giving that page permission to hold on to those thoughts. And a lot of times it's rattling in our head, and seeing them on paper can bring a lot of calm and
Mhm.
a cathartic kind of event or effect in terms of
Mhm.
what's going on within our body. And the other aspect is being able to calm the nervous system, which we can get into a little bit later.
Yeah. So she says, being a mom, work tasks that need done, studying for boards, looking for a new job. Yes, girl. Yes. And that's the thing that happens when you're a high performer and you are ambitious, you are driven, you are always constantly, I gotta. I've been there too. And it's like, and you had talked about like when you go so far in your life, you reach a certain like degree, you get places, like it's always, I got it. Even now, I feel like that too. And I have to like hold myself back. Like, I'm like, what's the next thing I could do?
It doesn't stop. It doesn't
It
stop.
it doesn't. It's so funny that it doesn't stop. And so definitely some good feedback here. She definitely says she'll try them. And I can vouch for the mind up, Chanda. Like I've done that so many times. It works so well. You got to get that shit out on paper, get it out of your brain and get it out of there. And Maida says, great advice. Thank you. And I wanted to say something really quickly about the caffeine, because I actually have a client right now and she's actually coming down off of caffeine. We're going very slowly taking her off of caffeine, and it's because of her blood pressure though. Her blood pressure
Mm.
is very sensitive to that caffeine, and her thing is getting off of blood pressure medication naturally. And so we're going down, and it is definitely correlating, like the decrease, because we're doing decaf and coffee, and and thinning it out and thinning and thinning it out slowly, and her blood pressure is going right along with it. So just like you were saying, some people are genetically, biologically just predisposed to being sensitive to things than other people aren't, like more sensitive, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so that's definitely a true thing. And people are like so dependent on caffeine and sugar. And we could go on and on about it. And I guess this might be kind of a good segue into the whole medication part and sleeping meds. And this is a
Mm.
huge thing. And I know working in the hospitals, I mean, they were like, they would kind of do it in different stages of like, well, let's do some melatonin and let's do this. And then they would kind of work up to the more aggressive medications. But, I did notice a trend where at the beginning it was like lots of meds, but then kind of it's been trending kind of downward actually with wanting to give medications, but it's still a problem. And I think in an acute care setting, it's not as bad versus when you're seeing your family doctor, whoever, who will be sometime like, well, I just want you to feel better, so I'll give you this. And they give it
Mhm.
out a little bit more freely, I think. But kind of like when we're talking about sleep and overall health, like how important is sleep for overall health, have you found with your practice?
It's our umbrella term it. It's
Mhm.
everything. Right? It's not a
Mhm.
pillar of health. It's the foundation of health
Ooh,
that the other things
mm,
are built upon. So I
mhm.
want to tap into a little bit of caffeine, if
Yeah, go for it.
real quick, and give some people a context of what's happening.
Mm,
So what caffeine does is, first of all, caffeine is it's not bad for you. There's many studies that to the very beneficial effects of caffeine. However, there's a time for it. And once it's say once you're drinking caffeine after like 12, 1
mhm,
p.m., it starts to affect your sleep. However,
mhm,
if we keep it more toward the morning, then it can have more beneficial effects. And a more pure form, or the organic form, is always beneficial because there's a whole bunch of things that go into caffeine, all that. So
mhm.
that's a whole
A
different
whole
thing.
different. Mhm,
However,
mhm.
so to geek out a little bit here about caffeine and what it does in your body
Yeah.
is that caffeine it sits on you have receptor sites for adenosine. Think about adenosine as this byproduct of the day. Right? As the
Mhm,
day goes on, your body gets more tired and produces these chemicals that tells your body, "Hey, it's tired. It's time to go and rest. What
Mhm.
caffeine does is that it has a similar molecule that sits on those receptors. So what happens is that your body doesn't get the signal that you're tired, right?
Mhm.
Caffeine doesn't give you energy. It just lets you think that you're not tired. And meanwhile, your body is still producing these adenosine products or byproducts
Mhm.
all the while. So
Mhm.
even though your body is not receiving it because of caffeine, you're still building it because it's a biological thing. You can't put a stop to the adenosine. So this is why when you wean off of coffee, you get an avalanche of that adenosine. You get an avalanche of
Mhm.
that tired molecule. So you don't just get what was blocked, you get what accumulated after it was blocked as well. So
Mhm.
that sleep pressure is called sleep pressure. So that sleep pressure comes heavy on you. And it's
Mhm.
usually going to be in a part of the day that you don't want to be tired.
Yeah.
So you get more caffeine, you get more coffee, there goes
Mhm.
that vicious cycle. So I hope that, I know it's a little sciencey, but I hope that makes sense in terms of
Mhm.
what's happening inside of us and what caffeine
Mhm.
may be doing in our bodies, you know,
Mhm.
when it comes to that.
I think a good thing to piggyback off of that is, and that so much of what I talk about and so much of medications, especially with like diabetes and high blood pressure, those medications just mask the symptoms of what really is going on with somebody. All
Yeah.
that shit is still there. The obesity, the cholesterol, the plaque in your arteries, the inflammation, the high insulin, all that's all still going on, but we're just giving you something to mask these symptoms. And that's the hugest problem, that we don't take that extra step to address the real problem, the root cause of what is going on, and starting from there and backing it up. But I geek out on this stuff too.
Yeah, this is.
This stuff
I want
too.
to try to keep it
I
short
love it.
and make sense because I know not everybody loves that geeking out in the science kind of
Yeah.
aspect of things. But once we understand things, we
Hmm.
can better direct things and be like, oh, this
100%.
is why. Right? And
Hmm.
also, caffeine has a half life of about 6-7 hours, depending on
Hmm.
your genetic profile. So what that means
Hmm.
is, after you say you drink 100 milligrams of caffeine or say coffee, 6 hours later, half of that is
Hmm.
still in your system, right? So
Hmm.
6 hours later, 50 milligrams is still in your system. 6 hours after that, 25 milligrams is still in your system. So that's what a half life really means. And when we get into sleep disruption, now going into your question, it
Hmm.
is absolutely crucial. So when we talk about a lot of people come to me also wanting to lose weight. In my history, I have personal training, right? A movement coach as well. So it goes hand in hand with
Hmm.
that. It's the crux of your metabolism and your hormones. So when we're talking about weight loss, there's this something that happens when you're missing out on sleep, where your hunger hormones go up and your satiety hormones, that feeling of fullness, goes down. So this is something where your body gets the note where, hey, I had enough food. This is good. This hormone does that. So now
Hmm.
you have that hormone that's not there as much anymore. So you don't really feel full, and you have the hormone that keeps you hungry elevated. So it's like a double jeopardy kind of thing. So many of our fitness protocols and health protocols and all these different protocols overlook sleep, which is the vital piece of metabolism and controlling those hunger pings and hunger hormones. And you don't know why you've been doing the workouts, you've been doing this, you've been doing that, and it's not really working out, right? That's one aspect when it comes to weight. The other aspect is when it comes to your mind, your brain. A lot of people tap into mindset or personal development, but guess what changes your brain? Right? We talk about neuroplasticity. These are the thoughts, new thoughts. So when you're trying to change behavior, it's a new thought pattern. Right? When you
Hmm.
think about the neurons firing together, you're
Hmm.
creating new pathways. Right? As coaches, this is what we do. Alex,
Hmm.
you have a coach, I have a coach, right? And they teach us to think differently or to look at possibilities that weren't there before. This is You're laying down new neural pathways. All right. I know I'm geeking out a little bit on these things, but it's important to understand because your thoughts are creating new possibilities that gets laid down during sleep.
Hmm.
This is what a lot of my colleagues overlook in the mindset field. If you're not tapping into sleep, you're not tapping into the deepest parts of your mindset if you're looking at behavior change, like period. Then we look at the down the line aspects that come into play, or the illnesses. Think about forms of dementia, right? And even insulin resistance. So you have your cells become more insulin resistant just after like a week of like shorter sleep. They're not able to take up the sugar or the glucose from your meals. And now when we talk about like dementia or brain cognition and mental acuity, which you're going to want if you're a high performer, if you're running a business, and if you have kids, because kids will come at you, right? Kids will come at you quick, so you got to be on your toes. You know, you got to be there. It's going to hinder that because during sleep, our brain kind of cleans itself. And without adequate sleep, what we have is an accumulation of what we call amyloid plaque. And that has been, neuroscientists have noted that as being a high likely cause of dementia. Right? So this is it's not just for how you look, it's also for how you look and how you be in the world. Because without your brain, it's a wrap. Right. And you think about the emotional component to that as well. Without sleep, your best friend can look at your worst enemy. Right. The argument with your partner, woo, that's not gonna go as you're gonna be like, what you say? What? Oh, no, that we're not having that. Right. So arguments like skyrocket, and the resolution of those arguments stay very low when we see that individuals are low on sleep. So it really influences every part of your world when it comes to that. What do you have you had that experience, Doctor?
Well, actually, what I was going to add to that was to talk about how serious the sleep issue is to your health and to this whole neuroplasticity and to Alzheimer's, dementia, and mental acuity and focus and just being able to be alert and oriented. When in the hospital, there are order sets specifically for sleep. So there are order sets that say we cannot disrupt a patient. We cannot go into a patient's room, wake them up for 6 hours. Dude, and it says it, do not wake up patient, do not interrupt patient sleep. I forgot what they call it. There's like a certain name that they call it, but it's an actual order that we have, because if we start getting patients that start becoming confused, agitated, anxious, instead of going to medication, we'll look at their sleep. And it's like, hey, are we waking these people up every 2 hours to get a blood pressure? Because where I worked was in ICU, it's constant. Every hour we're getting blood pressures, vitals, assessing, checking lines, hanging meds. It's constant. And it's like, who can get any kind of sleep? So the rate of delirium, ICU delirium, was crazy high. And then we have patients that are up at all hours because you're in a small room that's a box with one window, and it really plays mental games with you. And it's real life. This is how real this stuff is. So getting solid hours of uninterrupted sleep, and I guess maybe this might be kind of a good segue into the next one, but about sleep hygiene and creating a healthy sleep environment. I think somebody had wrote a comment. I got to catch up on these comments, but like Mayra mentioned, like, how do I she's talking about REM sleep be expected. But however you want to approach this, or however you want to say around sleep hygiene and getting the most out of quality sleep for yourself.
Yes. Okay. So make a note. I'll make a note about answering that REM. Right. When it comes to sleep hygiene, you always want to be able to cater your environment. Right. You could go on Google and tap in like what would be a good sleep environment. To keep your electronics out of the bedroom. Right. Making it dark in the environment, because the melatonin doesn't help with good sleep. Melatonin helps with the timing of sleep, and it gets triggered by the darkness in our environment. So making it dark is going to start stimulating melatonin, right? Which is telling our body, hey, get ready for sleep. However, when it comes to deep, like non-REM sleep and REM sleep, when we tap into the strategies, that's one thing, because we can go into curating your environment. We can go into not eating a huge meal right before bed. And
Mhm.
it has nothing to do in terms of calories or weight loss. It has to
Nope.
do with the blood flow to your brain,
Mhm.
right? Because when you're sleeping, you're still that your body is very active. Your brain is very active, not moving around, but there's still processes that
Mhm.
happen. So when you have a big, huge meal before bed, what tends to happen is that your brain and your gut start fighting for blood flow. And
Mhm.
you will notice that you might start waking up a little bit more groggier for longer.
Mhm.
You know, a big thing with the strategies and going back into the emotional and trauma aspect of it, and I'd like to share this story that I had with a client of mine,
Mhm.
was that no matter what the strategy is, if your subconscious, if your body is holding on to a trauma that's, or I like to say a strong emotional signature that's tied into nighttime, then it doesn't matter what strategy you use, because
Mhm.
your body is not feeling safe. There's one thing that your body needs to feel in order to have this powerful thing we call sleep, because it's not a
Mhm.
luxury. We have to understand sleep is not a luxury. It's a biological need, right? Sleep is not a luxury. It's a biological need. So
Mhm.
the one thing that your body must feel is peace, right? From an evolutionary standpoint, we need to feel safe in order to sleep, because we can't run, we can't cook, we can't fight, we can't sex, we can't procreate, we can't communicate, we can't do any of those things. So if sleep wasn't important, it makes no sense to
Mhm.
sleep. So there's something deeper in terms of, I like to tie it into the soul aspect of things, right? And the spiritual
Mhm.
aspect of things, which is another discussion in itself. Um, However, going back into the emotional trauma aspect of it, I had a client that she had a traumatic experience at night, right? She had bunk beds with her brother. Her brother had this illness, and he stopped breathing at night, and it freaked her out. She was
Mhm.
taking care of him. So at that point, after that, for her, it wasn't safe for her to go to sleep, because she had to be alert, right? This hyper
Mhm.
arousal, hyper
Mhm.
alert of, hey, I have to take care of this person that I love dearly. And if I miss this, he might die.
Mm.
So this happened earlier on in her life, in her world. Now, when we did the work, she was like suffering from insomnia, or like she got like 3 to 4 hours of sleep like nightly. It was
Oh.
it was bad for a long time. And then she was going through all these things, Weight Watchers, all these different
Mhm.
avenues to release weight, and then we just focused on sleep.
Mhm.
And when we were able to dissolve that thing and have that understanding of, hey, this is what's keeping you from getting to that place. And when then we worked on that, it was like a release, and the body started taking the brakes off. And 8 months later down the line, sustainably, she was able to release 50
Mhm.
pounds. I say release because we don't find it back, right? It's not the yo-yo kind of
Right.
release and I bring it back, right? Um,
No.
so that's how important it is. And but
Mhm.
also to understand and know yourself and see what's going on that's keeping you hyper vigilant in a state
Mhm.
that needs you to just relax and be at peace and surrender. Right?
Mhm.
There's surrender that's needed to cross that doorway into the sleep realm.
Into the Sleep Realm. That sounds like such a good like book or movie.
I'll make it. I'll make a note of that. Into the sleep.
Aw, you got some super fans over here in this audience. Everybody is loving everything that you're
Oh,
saying.
I
I,
appreciate that.
I love it too.
Yeah.
It's so helpful. It's so incredibly helpful. And stress and cortisol and all the things. And you know what I will say too about that, eating before bed you know, and you know me, and I talk about intermittent fasting all the time. And how you explained how, you know, the gut and brain are fighting for blood flow. And that's so much of what I teach and what I talk about and what I try to help people understand about intermittent fasting is that, you know, when you're constantly eating and snacking and having food in your stomach and putting large amounts of food into your stomach all the time, you know, your body has to put energy and blood and all kinds of focus on just that. And if it's having to do that continuously all the time throughout the day, I mean, the rest of your body is missing out on all that great blood flow and nutrients and all the attention that should be showed on it because it's always just trying to work on digesting food.
Yes.
And that's why intermittent fasting is such a great break for your body so that it can work up here. And there's so much research done on how your brain function improves, your cognitive function improves when the blood flow, when the nutrition, when all that good stuff starts flowing into the places that it's supposed to go and not just always going to your gut and to your intestines and to your colon, where it's working on the other parts of your body. So I think that's such a huge thing to understand. And so much more I could talk about with that because I geek out about that too. But that's so important. And I wanted to go through somebody had wrote, I wanted to go to this comment real quick. She says she's forgetting things during this presentation. Sad crying face. She thinks that her sleeping issue started while she was completing her doctorate and staying up all night, and she needs to retrain her bed to go to bed at a decent time. Is there any words of advice that you could give her about kind of reestablishing that rhythm and that routine? Because I know for myself, honey, I worked nights for many a years, and that shit messes you up so much when you work nights. So how can you retrain yourself to kind of get into a more regular rhythm? Maybe a rhythm that is more appropriate for you, right? Because everybody's different. How do we
Yes.
find your own rhythms?
Oh, such a good question. And you bring up a good point too. In the medical field itself, we have doctors and nurses that are required to limit their sleep, right? The system just promotes that, you know,
Mhm.
and there's important decisions that are needed to be made and that are made from a brain that is mal slept, you
Yeah.
know, um, and overnight shift work is so detrimental to your sleep pattern and to your health. It's been categorized as a carcinogen, right? Because
Oh.
when we're not in that sleep mode and getting that restorative sleep, it has a tie to higher cancer rates because your immune system is plummeted,
Mhm.
right? So that's a huge understanding in terms of getting it in, understand how important that is, and really trying to tweak a system and the people in within that system to get the sleep that they need. I mean, I was in
Mhm.
that camp too,
Yeah.
right? So just no sleep, it was a wrap. So going into that question, like how can we step into that the better habits, right? And it comes into discipline. There's one thing that I hear a lot of. I just need
Mhm.
to be more disciplined. I need to have more discipline. You know, I want to be more disciplined. One thing is understanding that as when you stayed up for the doctorate, it was an important focus in your life,
Mhm.
right? So now there's a neural association with staying up equals success, right?
Ooh.
That might be the association. I don't
Mhm.
know. I don't know you personally, but this is
Yeah.
from the comment, right? So where discipline comes into play, discipline is not what most people think discipline is. And there's one of
Mhm.
the prime things that I like to touch on, right? The seed of discipline is to know thyself, right? Because the root word in discipline is disciple. So when we talk about self discipline, we're talking about being a disciple of yourself, meaning what would you like to experience? Like, what is it that you want to get from, say, going to going to bed at an earlier time? You know, what is
Mhm.
it that you're looking to experience? What are you not experiencing right now? What is your soul wanting to experience that you're not there? What is the fulfillment lacking there? Until we get clear on that, right? The strategies are going to be just scratching the surface and not really going deep. You might do it for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then when things get tough, it's like, oh. and things are always going to get tougher. So it's asking yourself, one, what does the other side of this look like and feel like? That's very important to understand, because now we're tapping into the possibility of something different.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, we tap into, okay, what is the one thing that you're going that's appropriate for you to do based on your circumstances? The best strategy for you to do is a strategy that you're going to do, right? That's the best strategy, period.
Yeah.
So when we talk about going to sleep earlier, something as, oh, I just need to go to sleep earlier, we need to get more nuance with that, because going to sleep earlier could mean about 5 to 10 different things that you need to do. And we want to really focus on one thing, because as we get more things coming in that we have to do, it creates more chaos, and our brain doesn't like things that are not familiar. So start with that one thing that you can do based on your circumstances and your schedule, that we can take a step back and start chipping away at that thing. But first and foremost, the belief has to be there that what the other side looks like is attainable, and you see yourself on the other side of late nights and brain fog and energy lacking and all those things. What does the opposite of that look like? First, tap into that, and then we start working on these strategies. Because if you don't have the belief, if you don't know what the destination is, then it's just going to be like, what am I doing this for? What is this about? It's nebulous. So we want to get granular and really tap into the heart.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So what do you, I'm trying to think how I want to ask this. How,
just ask it, girl. Come on, bring it out.
Okay. So is there one reason more than another that people seem to reach out to you, like a catalyst, like event or situation, or a common thing that people come to you for, like, I need one because X, Y, and Z happened to me? Do you find a common pattern, or is it kind of like different things that come into people's lives?
Yeah, usually it'll be they want a holistic approach, because they're tired of this superficial approach, or they're tired of just like working out and nutrition. Usually it's going to be sleep and weight. I see that correlate. Like they want to drop weight, they want to get healthier in that aspect, but they know based on what I'm writing about and I'm putting out there, like they know I'm their sleep guy. And sleep is a symptom, by the way. Sleep is the lack of sleep is a symptom of something else. So we get to the root. They want to get to the root of something. They don't want to, like, the Band-Aid, or like you talked about before, like the medication slapping just a symptom. So the lack of sleep tells me that there's underlining something there, because there's a quote by a doctor. I forget his name because I want to give him credit for this, but it's such a powerful quote. It says, nature doesn't need any help. It just needs no interference.
Yes.
So if sleep is your natural state, right? So there's something blocking that. And so people come to me more for that sleep and energy and brain fog, but also for, hey, I've been trying doing different things and I just can't seem to drop the weight. Those are the two things.
Yeah. And I see, and what I'll say to that, like, if you're watching this and you know that you're overweight, you're carrying weight, and you can't sleep, those things are definitely related. And you maybe are experiencing lack of airflow, right? That's the huge thing that we would always see in the ICU, people coming in with respiratory distress because they're so extremely overweight. They get confused because they're not getting enough air, enough oxygenated blood to their brains. So then we're slapping a BiPAP mask on them, pumping air into them so that they can breathe. And it's just, it does end up becoming a vicious cycle, because then you end up on some machine that you're supposed to wear while you're asleep, which is like impossible. And then I can't sleep while I'm wearing the mask, so give me some sleeping pills so I can fall asleep, or give me something for anti-anxiety so I can wear this mask so I can go to sleep. But nobody's ever getting to the cause of, like, well, why do you have this sleep apnea in the first place? That's where we need to go. And then what is driving that obesity and all of that? It's so many others of these generational things that we've been talking about, these lifestyle things that we just keep repeating over and over again. That's what drives so much of this. And I have absolutely loved this conversation. I feel like we could go on and on and
Well, we,
go
we
because
go we could go all
I
week.
know
We go all week.
somebody asked about like working out and sleep, which is, I think we should totally do another show just on that if you're down for that, doing a
Oh yeah,
show
no,
about
definitely.
working out and sleep. I think we
Yeah,
should totally do one on that.
yeah, I'm
Um,
down.
for sure. Yeah. So many people have been writing in the comments like, where can we find you? How can we hook up with you? How can we learn more about you? Why don't you drop that and let us know?
Yes, you can find me here on well, here depending on where you're tuning in from. So Facebook, Juan Miolan, right? JuanMiolan, and the same place on LinkedIn,
Mhm.
right? You can tap with me on those two, and it's me. It's not a bot. I'm
Mhm.
real. I'm live here, and I'll just like to leave you with one thing. Um, I want you to take something that you could implement like right away, right? So real
Mhm.
quick, to relax your nervous system at night, you tapped into Dr. Alex beautifully tapped into the breath. And so when you're right before bed, think about taking a breath in through your nose. Through the nose is very important.
Mhm.
Right? Breath in through your nose. Think about a 2 second count, and then an exhale, right, through the mouth for 4 seconds, right? So a 1 to 2 ratio. So what that does is it teaches the breath, teaches the body to start calming down, especially as you have an elongated exhale. That's what we call the parasympathetic part of the breath, the relaxation part of the breath. And
Mhm.
as you tap into that, you'll allow your body to start to relax. And I have clients that I put them through this, and it
Mhm.
was like I was breathing and I breathed myself to sleep, right?
Mhm.
And which is great because a lot of times that's really the thing for most people, to relax the nervous system and tap into that. So I just wanted to share that and leave that with individuals as something that they can tap into and apply right away.
No, I love that. Breath work absolutely 100% works. 100% works. I've done a lot of breath work and it works, guys. Look into breath work, follow Juan. There's so many resources out there. And it's so much of like with everything that both you and I talk about. The proof is out there, the information's out there. You just have to want it and go look and go get it and apply it to your life. And that's thing that maybe that's kind of how I want to close out today is kind of like an exercise I like to do with my clients is head, heart, hands. And there's all kinds of variations
Ooh,
of
I
it. But
love
like,
that one. Yes.
so head is like, what did you learn today? Like, what knowledge did you obtain today in this interview? And then heart is, what did it make you feel? Did some story, something that we talked about, did it make you feel a certain way? Did it touch you in a certain way? And then hands, how are you going to take what you gained today and how are you going to use that? How are you going to apply it? What are you going to do with it? Because we want you to take the things that we talk about and apply it, implement it in your life and somebody that you love's life. That's what we want you to do. I think you would agree.
Yes. 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 100%. 100%. Like, and pay attention to that feeling. That feeling is going to be
Yep.
that unconscious feedback, or what really
Mm-hmm.
what really touched you, and
Yeah.
then the hands in implementing that, because you're going to
Mm-hmm.
affect the environment around you, right? You're the
Mm-hmm.
light, you're the embodiment. So yes, thank you so much.
Exactly.
Thanks so much for that share.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Do you have any exciting things or groups or what do you have going on that you can offer?
Yes, yes. Okay, so I have an exciting group program that I'll be opening up in April. It's a little bit
Oh.
away, but I'm putting it together, and it's going to be about 7 weeks, and it's going to address sleep. It's going to address nutrition. It's going to address movement and routine. Routine is a big one that people come to me
Mm-hmm.
in terms of. I just want to get on a routine. I just like a routine that fits, and we break down what a routine is, what is really meant to do, not
Mm-hmm.
just to do something that a guru or coach told you to do. But yes, about a seven week group, and that's going to be coming this April, and I'm going to be starting accepting members coming in soon, probably as soon as in a couple weeks.
Yes, you better get on that wait list. There's gonna be a wait list for this. I love it. I love it. Oh, thank you so much for today. I have so enjoyed this conversation today, and I know so many other people have as well. This is streaming live to Facebook, Instagram, or not Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter. And then I'm going to upload it later on as a podcast. So if you're watching this, all of my In Your Business episodes are all available via podcast. And so you can listen to it on the go. I know when I was in school and running around, that's how I did everything. I listened while I was driving on my commutes and all the things. So thank you so much, Juan. I really appreciate it.
For having me. Thank you all for your comments. Thank you all for your love. I appreciate you. Thank you for your warm embrace. Much
right? Because these people, they're our most important guests. These are the people that are going to take this away and do something with what we share today. So they are the most important guests. But yes. All right, guys, we will see you for the next episode of In Your Business with Dr. Alex. And like I always say, for a balanced life, just add spice. We'll catch you in the next one.